So guys, I can't believe I'm having to do this, but apparently we have to talk about some aliens. My name is Tara, and this is my channel, True Crime Matters, where I talk about and analyze everything true crime. So I'm going to start with the weirdest piece of news first. On April 30th of this year, just around 11 p.m. or so, police body cam captured a bright bluish-green streak fly across the sky. And then about 40 minutes after that flash, a man called 911 to report that him and his family saw something fall out of the sky, and there were two huge beings, not human, in his backyard.
Okay, what's going on over there?
Okay, lady. Me, my dad, and my brother, we're working on a truck in our backyard, and we have a big lot outside, right? Correct?
Okay.
We were working, and we just see in a corner of our eye something fall down from the sky, and it was with light, and when it hit down, it was like a big impact, and we felt it. We felt like an energy, and then we hear like a lot of footsteps near us, and then we have a big equipment, and we see, and there's like an 8-foot person beside it, and another one's inside, and it has big eyes and looking at us, and it's still there.
Okay, where is this on your property?
In my backyard. I swear to God, this is not a joke. This is actually, we're terrified of it.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us. Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
I'm waiting for the police to come, and you could hear footsteps in the backyard area. And a loud whispering, like you could hear whisperings. We were in the living room area, and you could hear footsteps on the roof. So we waited a little bit for the police. When they arrived, I told them what I saw, and they were kind of freaked out. Here's the body cam of the officer.
And now, it's more than an hour after that bright light. Officers meeting up with the caller and his family.
What'd you see?
It was like a big creature.
A big creature?
Yeah, like around 10 feet tall.
I'm not going to BS you guys. One of my partners said they saw something fall out of the sky too, so that's why I'm kind of curious. Did you see anything land in your backyard? Or?
They see like a big, that's what they say. They see like a big something with light.
What I saw right now, I do believe in it.
Police walk into the backyard to investigate.
So they went in the backyard, and one of the officers pointed at the floor, and it was a perfect circle. Here's a photo of the circle I'm referring to. Keep in mind, 2 officers came in my house, and one of them started running to his car, driving around the neighborhood, asking passing cars if they saw light.
What's clear, they're taking this call seriously.
Hey, this might sound like a really dumb question, but did you guys see anything fall out of the sky?
Asking others what they saw.
I would normally discount it as nothing. However, seeing as one of my partners said they saw it too, only reason I'm actually investigating it further.
He told me he believes me because her partner reported that she saw the same light as me. Moments before they left, one of the officers told me, if I see the thing again, to don't call him, just shoot him. And you can hear in the video, here's the video.
If those 9-foot beings come back, don't call us, all right? Deal with it yourself. I ain't dealing with that.
So they left, and we went inside the house, and we started praying. As we're praying, you could hear a loud human-like scream in the backyard. This is what happened to me on May 1st, 2023. I hope you guys kind of understand what happened to me.
Now, several news stations actually did report on this story, especially because there was body cam information and the 911 call. It seems the story was getting more and more bizarre by the day. It was after a certain point that the family actually had to go into hiding, and it's not clear why. It almost seems like maybe it's because, you know, there's so much coverage and they're probably getting bothered by media and people knocking on their door trying to get more information. Or the other thought is, were they asked to stay quiet? That's the mystery. And they even claimed that after the fact, surveillance cameras were put up by police, but then the police denied it. And then it was said that someone came to interview the family, and then it turned out it wasn't the police when they were told it was the police.
I'm a little disconcerted with the report that the family said police came a couple days later and did this whole investigation, and the Metro Vegas police have said, no, we didn't. Can you tell me if you've investigated or reported on or witnessed any other incidents of these strange, X-Files like incidents where people arrive to investigate that apparently don't exist?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would say that we do have pretty convincing evidence that has happened in the past, maybe the 50s and 60s. I think it's really difficult to find such a situation now because you could find this type of story in the tabloids. And then if there was a secret-keeping group, who would honestly believe them and take it as true if they came out and just said their story like they've been doing, and there's no need to cover it up? So I do think that's kind of more in the realm of conspiracy. However, they had photos supposedly, and they released photos of the police being there. That should be easy to verify, but our sources are telling us nothing officially. No one officially went out to follow up. And so if it's not them, and they're seeing these SUVs driving around blacked out, it could be other people, media, onlookers, just trying to figure out what's happened. But I would say it's a very unlikely situation that we have a shadow agency there.
Now, this news story seemed to come at a pretty interesting time because just weeks later in early June, a story broke about David Grusch, a former U.S. intelligence officer who made bombshell claims he was approached by other officials within the United States federal government who informed him that the federal government has a highly secretive UFO, also known as UAP, retrieval program and possesses non-human spacecraft and the corpses of non-human pilots.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well, naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Have you seen spacecraft?
I've seen some interesting photos and I've read some very interesting reports.
But he says the specific documents and photos that would prove his claims are still classified, and he cannot disclose them here.
In 2022, David filed a complaint with the United States Office of the Intelligence Community Inspector General, which would allow him to present classified information to the United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, as well as a complaint of retaliation by his superiors over a similar complaint David made in 2021 about classified information that he claimed had been concealed from Congress in order to thwart their oversight of UFOs.
I started out as a non-believer. I came to the problem as a hardcore physics guy, intel officer, so I have a, excuse my language, high factor. I was very methodical, interviewing people who didn't know each other, making sure this wasn't some kind of cover-up of some other program.
He says he pressed to gain direct access to this program, and that's when his trouble started. Grusch claims his investigation was stymied, his requests for access rebuffed.
They shut the door in my face. They denied me access to these programs.
Soon after, he says, he endured reprisals and retaliation from above. He then reported that information to the Intelligence Community Inspector General. That's why he's filed this whistleblower complaint. He says that experience is why he decided to go public here, and in a recent article written by Leslie Kane in The Debrief.
Representatives of the United States House of Representatives have made arrangements for an investigation by the House of Oversight Committee. In fact, on June 8th, it was reported that the Oversight Committee is in the early stages of preparing a hearing on UFOs in the wake of unconfirmed claims from David that the U.S. has allegedly found crashed alien spacecrafts, which is something that the Pentagon currently denies.
We do want to start with this breaking news happening right now. New reaction out of Capitol Hill from a News Nation exclusive story on a Pentagon whistleblower alleging the government has a secret UFO retrieval program and has hidden it from the public. Well, News Nation's Joe Khalil just caught up with Republican Oversight Chairman James Comer on the explosive allegations.
There will be oversight of that. I've heard about it. I don't know anything about it. But Representative Burchett and Representative Luna on the Oversight Committee are very interested in this issue, and they're taking the lead in this issue.
So there is going to be oversight on this?
We plan on having a hearing.
What can you tell us about these hearings? Because we had initially heard that the hearing involving the whistleblower would happen later this month. Is that still planned? Is that going to be scheduled officially?
I'm not going to say who's going to be at the hearing. We're going to firm that up, and I'll let the committee announce that. But I will say that it'll happen before the end of this month.
Before the end of this month.
And you all have been great. You broke before the end of July. Yes, sir. That is our plan. And we're trying to nail down all the details. But, of course, we have the Pentagon pushing against us, calling some of our witnesses, telling them, don't go testify before this committee. If we have to, we'll use the power of subpoena. We'll bring them in there and make them tell the truth, because this thing has been covered up. It is ridiculous. The Pentagon needs to come forth with the truth finally, and let's move on to another issue. But until then, I think we need to find out what's going on. And the charcoal briquette comment, everybody always quotes me on that. And the reality is, these folks, if they are beings from light years away or wherever, the dark side of the moon, I don't know. Their technology is so incredible that they could have done us, if they can travel light years to visit our little measly planet. Then their technology is so superior to anything we've ever seen. And you can see that if you watch the videos.
I know the TikTok video right there, or Tic-Tac. I keep saying TikTok. Tic-Tac video there is, it's hard to figure out what's going on there. But it's interesting. Some of the lawmakers will say, and we need to know too if it's possibly craft developed by China or Russia or one of our adversaries. But if you watch some of these videos, if China or Russia have that kind of technology, that would be crazy. It seems unlikely, don't you think?
Yeah. Do you think that they would have walked over Ukraine and half the world by now? Russia would have, and China would own us. Putin's ego, he would have landed one of those UFOs on the White House lawn, got out bare-chested, wrestled the president, got back in his UFO and head back to Mother Russia. Let's be honest, with that ego and they're so power hungry. And China's the same way. So you can't, and also our military, are all these pilots lying? Are they risking their lives, their careers, their retirement, everything they have, their reputations for something like this? No, I say no. They're not lying. They're telling the truth. Something is going on. Let's get to the bottom of it, and let's move on.
Do you have classified briefings? And I know you can't tell us what happens in those briefings, but is there just like a ton of information that we don't know? That you know?
There's quite a bit. I've been in meetings and I guess the CIA or whoever, the alphabet agencies in there, and they're getting nervous when the pilots start talking and telling us things, and they tried to sandbag us down in Florida on a meeting. They told us we were going to have a meeting. They gave us all this other top secret stuff, which is pretty incredible, but it had nothing to do with the UFOs. And then we had to call their bluff. We had to call back to Washington, and we had to get the higher ups to release the pilots to speak to us, which is why we flew to Florida in the first place. So there's I guess there's pride in ownership, whatever. There's just an arrogance about this bunch that I don't trust.
David thinks there has been a retrieval program since the 1940s. David claimed to have seen documentations from 3 different sources, including video recordings demonstrating that the Mussolini administration retrieved a spacecraft that didn't belong to humans that the Vatican had helped the United States acquire. He also asserted that the American federal government had murdered individuals of the United States as part of a protective cover-up and falsified the facts surrounding the Roswell event. Meanwhile, all of this comes almost exactly a year after the 2022 United States Congress hearings on UFOs. Do you guys all remember that? On May 17th, 2022, members of the United States House Intelligence Subcommittee on Counterterrorism, Counterintelligence, and Counterproliferation held congressional hearings with some top military officials to discuss military reports of unexplained aerial phenomena, or UAPs. The public portion of the hearing was in the morning, which lasted about 90 minutes, but Following that, there was a private classified session in the afternoon. Lawmakers were shown declassified images and footage of UFOs, including a video of a UFO observed by a Navy fighter jet pilot in 2021.
It's a privilege to be here with you today to address your questions regarding unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAP. What are UAP? Put simply, UAP are airborne objects that, when encountered, cannot be immediately identified. However, it is the department's contention that by combining appropriately structured, collected data with rigorous scientific analysis, any object that we encounter can likely be isolated, characterized, identified, and if necessary, mitigated. With regard to the importance of transparency, the department is fully committed to the principle of openness and accountability to the American people. However, we are also mindful of our obligation to protect sensitive sources and methods. Our goal is to strike that delicate balance, one that enables us to maintain the public's trust while preserving those capabilities that are vital to the support of our service personnel. In closing, the department is committed to this effort and welcomes the challenge. We thank you for your committed support and look forward to your questions.
Let me share with you the first video that we have here today, which shows an observation in real time. There it was. That's, in many cases, that's all that a report may include. And in many other cases, we have far less than this. As we detailed in both the unclassified and classified versions of the preliminary assessment released by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence last June, this often limited amount of high-quality data and reporting hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. As detailed in the ODNI report, if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they likely fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, U.S. government or U.S. industry developmental programs, foreign adversary systems, or a other bin that allows for a holding bin of difficult cases and for the possibility of surprise and potential scientific discovery. Let me show you a couple of another video and image.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is the LNS, dude. Well, if there's like... Look at that thing. It's rotating. Nickel 6-1 Tango, Roger, over. Oh, got it! Woohoo! Roger, there's troubleshooting as soon as I get... Did you box moving target? No, I took an auto track. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, dude. Wow, look at that, man. What the
Another video captured triangular objects, speculated to be drones, floating off the coast as seen through night vision goggles.
In this video, U.S. Navy personnel recorded what appears to be triangles, some flashing, recorded several years ago, off the coast of the United States. This was recorded while the U.S. Navy ship observed a number of small unmanned aerial systems in the area. And importantly, the video was taken through night vision goggles with a single lens reflex camera. These remained unresolved for several years.
Of those 144, 18 of them reportedly appear to exhibit unusual flight characteristics, appear to demonstrate advanced technology, and some of them appeared to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. That's pretty intriguing. And if you're able to answer this in this setting, are we aware of any foreign adversary capable of moving objects without any discernible means of propulsion?
I think I would, without discernible means of propulsion, I would say that we're not aware of any adversary that can move an object without discernible means of propulsion. The question then becomes, in many of these cases where we don't have a discernible mean of propulsion in the data that we have, in some cases there is likely sensor artifacts that may be hiding some of that. There's certainly some degree of something that looks like signature management that we have seen from some of these UAP, but I would caution. I would simply say that there are a number of events in which we do not have an explanation, and there are a small handful in which there are flight characteristics or signature management that we can't explain with the data that we have. We'll continue. Those are obviously the ones that are of most interest to us. Earlier, when we asked about how you avoid technological surprise, the biggest way you avoid technological surprise is by collecting this type of data and by, importantly, calibrating the assumptions that you go into with how you do that analysis. I'll tell you, within the UAP task force, we have one basic assumption, and that is that generally speaking, our sensors operate as designed. And we make that assumption because many times these are multi-sensor collections. We make no assumptions about the origin of this or that there may or may not be some sort of technology that we don't understand. That's, I think, the key to avoiding technological surprises, by calibrating those assumptions.
It's also been reported that there have been UAP observed and interacting with and flying over sensitive military facilities, particularly, and not just ranges, but some facilities housing our strategic nuclear forces. One such incident allegedly occurred at Malmstrom Air Force Base, in which 10 of our nuclear ICBMs were rendered inoperable. At the same time, a glowing red orb was observed overhead. I'm not commenting on the accuracy of this. I'm simply asking you whether you're aware of it and whether you have any comment on the accuracy of that report.
Let me pass that to Mr. Bray, if you've been looking at UAPs over the last 3 years.
That data is not within the holdings of the UAP task force.
Okay, but are you aware of the report, or that the data exists somewhere?
I have heard stories. I have not seen the official data on that.
So you've just seen informal stories, no official assessment that you've done or exists within DoD that you're aware of regarding the Malmstrom incident?
All I can speak to is, what's within my cognizance of the UAP task force, and we have not looked at that incident.
Well, I would say, it's a pretty high-profile incident. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but that's out there in the ether. You're the guys investigating it. Who else is doing it?
If something was officially brought to our attention, we would look at it. There are many things that are out there in the ether that aren't officially brought to our attention.
So how would it have to be officially brought to your attention? I'm bringing it to your attention.
Sure,
this is pretty official.
Sure. So we'll go back and take a look at it, but generally there is some authoritative figure that says there is an incident that occurred. We'd like you to look at this. But in terms of just tracking what may be in the media that says that something occurred at this time, at this place, there are probably a lot of leads that we would have to follow up on. I don't think we are resourced to do that right now.
Well, I don't claim to be an authoritative figure, but for what it's worth, I would like you to look into it. And
sure.
If for no other reason, you could dismiss it and say this is not worth wasting resources on.
Will do.
And have we attempted to communicate with those objects?
No.
So we don't even put out a alert saying, U.S. Identify yourself. You are, within our flight path or something like that. We haven't said anything like that.
We've not put anything out like that. Generally speaking, for example, in the video that we showed earlier, it appears to be something that is, unmanned. Appears to be something that may or may not be in controlled flight, and so we've not attempted any communication with that.
Okay, so. And I assume we've never discharged any armaments against a UAP, correct?
That's correct.
How about wreckage? Have we come across any wreckage of any kind of object that has now been examined by you?
The UAP task force doesn't have any wreckage that isn't explainable, that isn't consistent with being of terrestrial origin.
Do we have any sensors underwater to detect on submerged UAPs? Anything that is in the ocean or in the seas?
So I think that would be more appropriately addressed in closed session, sir.
Okay. Basically, it sounds like we have a good partnership with FAA, but apart from FAA, we don't have partnerships with other agencies or other entities that might be tracking so that we could enlarge our data set to make comparisons.
So we will. So that's the goal of this next effort, will be to expand that relationship with the rest of government and the interagency.
Right. With that, I want to thank you all for taking the time out. I also want to thank my colleagues on both sides of the aisle for participating in this very historical and important hearing. I think it's one of the few times we can demonstrate some degree of bipartisanship around UAPs and UFOs. So I love it. Appreciate it. Thank you. And we will see you all. We will recess this hearing for the moment and return in a closed session at noon.
A number of lawmakers, including Rick Crawford, expressed concerns about potential Russian or Chinese hypersonic weapon programs, warning that a failure to identify such threats was essentially an intelligence failure that the U.S. would want to avoid. The standardization of the civilian reporting process was also discussed in the hearings, as the majority of reportings in the military's database are from military officers. Now, as for the story with the Las Vegas family, do you guys think there was any truth to that story? There was actually more footage released where you see the family kind of, scared and kind of walking up to the yard with guns. Some people are speculating that they can actually see a figure behind the forklift, in the forklift, above the forklift.
Ay! Permisar! Calmundarela, me calcines var eso. Kailo, cherro, que chudi. Kailo, cherro. Kailo. Uy, chetar. Chidi kao.
Agladel, paró.
Chidi kao.
Paró cayó, dile unia caca bare Agladel.
Kai, cherro.
Adelo, diles.
Permisar, sale.
Te escucharé lo que te camiona, Agladelo.
Kai, permisar, que sai.
Agladel te
Pero permisar, porque no, cherro, que calmundarela.
Diles, eso no son míos, trayendo para acá.
Kai.
Ande el camión, los conchadicas del camión. El segundo, de izquierda para acá, de cables.
Kai, cherro, chidi kao, Agladel.
Concha, costelo, concha, chistilo.
Kai, forklift o camión.
Yo tomo muy. Castelo, pegachari, palalo, que te quedó con la. Palalo, diles que a casa de los brindis. Viene un show, o sea, pecucharico, se adolo.
Chidi kao, Agladel.
Vaya, me dígale completico.
Kai.
Costelo, de que acá, dile que acá callale, hay muy pelón, varón pelón. Hinchalos te adoro, dijeron de
What do you guys think? Do you think there's any truth to that? Do you guys think that thing falling was just a meteor? To me, it sort of looked green and bluish, and I've seen meteors look like that. But what do you think is going to come of these upcoming hearings? Do you guys have your own personal UFO stories? I may actually have to do my first live chat with this one because I am completely fascinated by some of the stories I've been hearing lately. Personally, I have never had a UFO sighting, but I am curious to hear some personal stories. I did once go on a date with a guy I worked with whose family member was in the CIA, and he told me that this family member worked closely with Secret Location for Combat Vehicles or something like that. And he told me once that he asked this family member, hey, are there aliens? And he would always tell him, believe me, either way, you don't want to know. He also added that this family member never sleeps, and he also believed that we at some point were aliens that came from somewhere else. So anyway, creepy as it was, that's all I have for now, but I will definitely keep an eye on the future of this story because I am so curious to know what goes on in those hearings. I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching. Be careful out there.